Hello and welcome to Cinema of Blood. My name is John, and today 50 years of horror movies continues. I've got 5 movies from the year 2006. So originally I was going to film this with only the candlelight here in the room, but it is so overcast today. I turned the light off and it's dark in here without a light on. So that would not have worked out very well. Alright, so anyway, excuse me. I got 5 movies here from the year 2006, so let's go ahead and get underway, shall we? Alright, so the first one I'm going to talk about is Abominable. And this is directed by Ryan Schifrin. The story is by Ryan Schifrin and James Morrison. Excuse me, I couldn't see the name there for a minute. It stars Matt McCoy, Haley Joel, not Haley Joel Osment, just Haley Joel, it's a girl, and Paul Gleason. So what it's about is Matt McCoy, he's been in some kind of traumatic accident. He's kind of recovering from it. So him and his caretaker go to this cabin in the woods so he can get a little bit of rest and relaxation, a little bit of R&R, so to speak. And it just so happens that there is a Sasquatch. And I don't want to give away too much. When I say a Sasquatch, I may be lying about it just being a Sasquatch, alright? That is where the term abominable comes from, which really threw me off because I remember growing up, I always heard stories about the abominable snowman, and he's supposed to be in the Himalayas, you know, the Yeti, and then you hear about the Sasquatch, and he's known as Bigfoot or whatever here in America. So the title kind of threw me off. I'm like, wait a minute, abominable, that seems like something more like for the abominable snowman. Anyway, I may be wrong. Anyway, like I said, the poor guy is just trying to get some R&R. And how are you going to get some R&R when there is a Sasquatch or Sasquatches or whatever in the area, okay? This has some pretty decent little cameos. There's one from Jeffrey Combs, who played Herbert West in the Reanimator movies. And there's also another thing about it is there's also this group of really scantily clad young ladies in the cabin next door, the cabin somewhere located close to him. One of them is the Scream Queen, Tiffany Shepis, and if you're into that sort of thing, she has a nice little topless scene. So just pointing that out to you. Don't shoot the messenger. I know I don't want to sound sexist. I'm just saying that scene is in there. But it is basically about this guy trying to get rest and relaxation, and there is a Sasquatch in the area. And makes for some pretty decent little jump scares at times, you know, and they don't seem like they seem to flow. They seem to flow quite nicely. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. That is Abominable. All right. Next up, we have got Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Okay, this is directed by Scott Glosserman. It is written by Scott Glosserman and David J. Steve. All right. Stars Nathan Bessel, Angela Goethals, and Scott Wilson. So what it's about is you got this film crew, and they're following this guy, Leslie Vernon, around because Leslie, he is an aspiring serial killer, an inspiring slasher. He wants to follow in the footsteps of Jason, which Kane Hodder has a cameo in this. And his cameo, if you look at the credits, says Guy at the Elm Street House. He wants to follow in the footsteps of Freddy Krueger. And Robert Englund also has a cameo in this as well, all right? And he's got a mentor played by Scott Wilson. Now, the thing about Scott Wilson is Scott Wilson played Richard Hickok, I believe his name was, one of the killers who killed the Clutter family in the movie In Cold Blood. So there's that little tie right there, you know. So anyway, this camera crew follows Leslie Vernon around, and this is basically going to be his first real night of slashing, of being a slasher, being a serial killer. And you can just imagine how that turns out. All right, that's all I'm going to say about it. This is a fun movie. If you have not seen this movie, it is really fun movie. It's so much fun watching him go through his routine as he gets ready, you know, to go out and do what slashers do. All right. Anyway, okay, next up we have got Hatchet. All right, this is written and directed by Adam Green. It stars Kane Hodder, Joel David Moore, and Dion Richmond. So what this movie is about this tour boat, one of those tour boats that goes through the swamps of Louisiana, and it encounters the ghost of Victor Crowley. All right, now Victor Crowley, he is played by Kane Hodder, who of course played Jason in the Freddy movies, 4 of them. Best Jason ever, in my opinion. All right. And anyway, when Victor was alive, he got hit in the face with an axe by his father, and that, of course, killed him, and he became Victor Crowley the Ghost. The only thing is Victor Crowley the Ghost is pretty solid. And if you like your movies gory, some good old-fashioned American gory fun, that is what this movie is all about. You're going to love this movie. All right, I'll give you an example of some of the gore in this. There's one where he grabs a woman and he takes like this and just rips her jaw right, just rips her face right in two. There's other creepy, gory scenes in it. Of course, Kane Hodder is fantastic as Victor Crowley. And there's enough humor in this film to offset the gore to where if you're somebody that's not used to a lot of gore, the humor's going to help quite a bit. But this is one of those, I highly recommend this one. This is one of my favorite slasher movies pretty much of all time. All right. And Kane Hodder has a lot to do with that. All right. Anyway, that is Hatchet. Okay. All right. Moving on. Now, I told myself that I would not do any remakes on this particular list, but I have to do this one. The remake of The Hills Have Eyes is, in my opinion, a better film than the original Hills Have Eyes, all right? Same premise. You get this family trapped out in the desert. You get these cannibalistic, probably incestuous hill people that attack them with a vengeance. But yeah, I just thought this one played off to me better than the original Hills Have Eyes. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the first Hills Have Eyes, but I just like this one a whole lot better. Now, the Hills Have Eyes 2, this is what's interesting about this. The original sequel to the original Hills Have Eyes, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, is probably one of the worst horror movies ever made. And you could probably say the same thing for the sequel to the remake as well, as far as being one of the worst horror movies ever made. If you're going to watch either one of these, just watch the first one, whether it be the original or whether it be the remake. All right. So, and I forgot to say, this is directed by Alexander Aja. It is written by Wes Craven, or based upon his original film. Alexander Aja and Gregory Levasseur. All right. It stars Ted Levine, Kathleen Quinlan, and Dan Bird. All right. So yeah, that is The Hills Have Eyes. All right. So next up, finally, we have Them. And this is a French horror film. In France, it is known as Ils, I-L-S. All right. So what it's about, it is written and directed by David Moreau and Javier Palud. It stars Oliver Bonamy, Michael Cohen, and Adriana Mocha. So what it's about is you got this couple, and they're in their house, just enjoying a night in their house, and there is a home invasion. And they are terrorized by these people in these hooded sweatshirts. So they've got to figure out a way to survive the night, all right? Now, if that sounds familiar, The Strangers took its ideas from Them, okay? If you remember in The Strangers, when she asked, "Why are you doing this?" And I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but if you haven't seen the movie, I am going to spoil it. One of the killers says, "You were home." And there is a very similar scene in Them. Personally, I like Them a little bit better than I'd like The Strangers, but The Strangers has also grown on me quite a bit as a horror film over the years with repeated watchings. All right. Anyway, that is the premise of Them. It is a home invasion movie. You could probably include it in what is known as the French extreme of horror movies, although it is not as extreme in the gore as a movie like Inside or Frontiers or Martyrs is. All right, excuse me. All right, so yes. Anyway, that is it. That is 5 horror films from the year 2006. Thank you guys once again for watching, and until next time, take care and stay scared. Bye-bye.